Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the product development process. Tim D'Andrea is going to give you a brief basic introduction to product development. If you're a little bit further along in your stages, that is totally okay. There's SCORE mentors that can help you with that process as well. There's going to be tons of time for Q&A. And today our webinar is sponsored by our SCORE Northern Arizona chapter, SCORE Utah, SCORE Phoenix, and SCORE Southern Arizona. And as always, we are powered by the SBA and they allow us to do these. So here is Tim, and he's going to give you a little bit more about himself and what he does.
Why, thank you, Crystal. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'll introduce myself in a sec here. I just wanted to show you a quick kind of an agenda snapshot of today. We will start with a couple slides about SCORE. Some of you might be clients for a long period of time. Some may be brand new to SCORE. So we're going to kind of explain what we do. I'll then go through a little bit about my background, and then we'll do a deep dive into the product development process. We'll have a couple of stops for questions and answers along the way. And this is a 60-minute event. Are we ready? I think I heard yes. So for those of you that are not familiar with SCORE, I've been with SCORE a little over 2 years. We have been around since 1964. We're an SBA-funded nonprofit comprised of about 10,000 volunteer mentors that help small businesses. Since 1964, we've helped millions of people, companies start, grow, thrive. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I'll just kind of fly through this. So we do a few things. We offer free business advice and mentoring. So we're available one-on-one with you in person if you're near us. We do a lot of stuff over Zoom and Google Meet these days. And that seems to work just fine. We offer lots of training modules on our website. We have a huge resource page that includes live workshops, pre-recorded workshops, and training modules that are available to you offline, and tons and tons of templates for planning your business, for marketing plans, you name it. It is a massive resource database on our website that I urge you to all explore. As I mentioned, 10,000 volunteers, that's a lot of people, all walks of life. Most of these people are former business owners. Not everyone, some are managers, existing or retired. And we have, my chapter is in Northern Arizona here in Prescott. We cover pretty much everything north of Phoenix in the state. But we have offices all over the US. Some of the tools that are available to you 24/7. We mentioned this resource library. We have lots and lots of courses on everything from Facebook, Google, advertising, marketing, HR, strategic planning, and it is massive. It might be a little overwhelming at times. So connect with a mentor and have them help you walk through that. They will make your life much easier. Lots of articles, blogs, white papers from business experts on various topics, a lot of data reports, infographics on trends and such, and then newsletters. If you sign up for SCORE, you will see lots of information from us on events, happenings, workshops and such. Enough on that. Let's talk about myself. So I've been around a long time. I started with a bachelor's in electrical engineering in 1981, Cal Poly Pomona. When I was at Cal Poly, I met an inventor who worked for Mattel Electronics, and he was looking for a student to hire to help him develop his side business, which was electronic games. So I got involved with this cool company called Advanced Microcomputer Systems, and he had a number of inventions of toys, games, and I was his his technician that built these prototypes while he was working at Mattel. That grew and thrived and spun out into another company. I'll tell you about it in a second. So I started, basically as a founder of this contract engineering company. We develop products for us internally and for other clients throughout the U.S. For about 6 years. Then we spun out a manufacturing company that developed and delivered a consumer product system called Halcyon. It was a home entertainment gaming system. And then after that kind of fizzled, I worked for a couple of other companies in the San Diego area as a design engineer, project engineer, manager. And then I spent 20 years in the semiconductor industry as initially a field applications engineer, a product specialist for microprocessors, programmable logic and such. And then eventually a sales engineer for some of these companies you see here, a lot of lesser known companies that you may not know. And eventually became an owner of what they call a manufacturer's representative company. We were the OEM sales office for companies like SanDisk and such. I called in that 20-year period. I called on hundreds of companies that were, startups to medium-sized to tier 1 companies, all trying to develop and deliver products. So I'm very familiar with this process. For the last 10 years, I've been working for a product development company called D&K Engineering in San Diego. They are about a 700 employee firm that develops mostly very complex electromechanical products like 3D printers and DNA sequencers and super sophisticated products. We also manufacture at D&K on a contract basis. These products are all client ideas that we've designed and delivered. I'm still there. I'm a part-timer there. So over the course of my history, I've worked with lots and lots of startups, new ideas, inventions, and such. Here's a couple of pictures on some of the things from my early days when, if you can see my cursor, when we were at Advanced Microcomputer Systems, we did a lot of projects for companies like Coleco, Entex, Revell. These were toy companies back in the 80s, and the early days of tabletop games, with LED displays, football, various arcade games were emulated on these small platforms. Vacuum fluorescent displays, LCDs, display technology really evolved in that day. A big hit for us was Dragon's Lair. That was a 3-way venture with us and Cinematronics and Don Bluth Animation. This was back in the era of these new stand-up arcade games that were prior to Dragon's Lair, very low resolution. Stargate and Pong was one of the original ones, but they got a little better. And the Laserdisc changed everything because the graphics suddenly got much smoother and much higher resolution, not as high res as the games today, but it was a big step. It was a huge success and I ran the engineering development for Dragon's Lair and a couple of follow-on games that were part of that rollout back in 1984 and 85. And then we spun out this RDI Video Systems company, which was a manufacturer of this Halcyon system, which was a home-based version that played Laserdisc video games. It did not do well. That was a business not a great story in terms of business planning. It was a very expensive product. We did not do much market research to see if people would be willing to spend $2,500 in 1984 for a home video system when Mattel's Intellivision was retailing for about 100 and change. We were at $2,500 and we sold about 50 units. So that went bust. But a lot of learning came out of that for me. So let's get started. Product development from a high level starts with an idea. There's an invention, an idea in someone's head. And the first question that really needs to be asked, is there a need for this product? And that's a fundamental question. We'll get into that a little bit. So a good starting point is to do some research, and there's a lot of ways to do that, to see what the market size is for this product, what the product cost target needs to be, how much will people be willing to spend for this solution, what are the barriers to entry, what is the patent landscape, are there other companies delivering something already that's patented and you might be in violation. So we'll talk about some of these here in a sec. Identifying sales channels for your product. So distributors, manufacturers, reps, there are a number of channels to help you deliver your product. Direct sales is very common with the internet, but these sales channels can be very helpful in giving you insight into the features of your product. They may be very in touch with your market, and so sales channels are often a good place to look for market information and ultimately using them to deliver to the masses. Fundraising is a huge topic. Raising the monies. Some of these products, at least in my world at D&K Engineering, are millions of dollars to get them to production. Simpler products obviously are cheaper. So fundraising is a key topic we'll get into a little bit. And then in terms of the meat of product development, I am assuming that most of you, this is the case in my world, most companies, startups work with a partner company like D&K Engineering that will actually do the heavy lifting in terms of the development of the product and the ultimate manufacturing of the product. So part of your process might be creating a request for proposal, an RFP or RFQ, a request for quote. And the key components of the RFP are, the product specification. What does this product do? What's the function? What's the performance? How fast is it supposed to do something? How light does it need to be? How long should it operate on some batteries, or how long on a single charge, etc. The target cost is a key part of the product specification. In the medical world, they call it a product requirements document that captures all of this. Medical products, I should say. An SOW is a common term, which means statement of work, and that kind of defines the deliverables of the project. We're going to deliver 10 alpha prototypes by such and such a date, 50 beta prototypes by such and such a date. The client that's hiring the firm might want to manage the software and the human interface, the creative stuff, the industrial design, and the partnering development firm maybe develops all of the hardware, all the mechanicals, the electronics, and the firmware. Things like that are covered in a statement of work. Financial terms are a big part of this. What will the outsourced partner require from the client in terms of deposits, and payment terms? Are the payment terms net 30, net 60, net 15? That's the time period which that invoice is due and payable after the invoice is released to the client. And of course, along the way, we're going to develop various prototypes. A concept might be a kind of an ugly suitcase full of wires and off-the-shelf boards, computer boards, circuit boards, single board computers, what have you, and maybe a tiny device that you hold in your hand that connects to that suitcase full of stuff that kind of mimics the product that you're ultimately going to create. This is something that's very common in our world, to get something kind of working that's demonstrable, that kind of breathes a little bit and mostly emulates the product. We'll talk about these various phases of prototypes. Of course, we talked about marketing. Market testing is a key part of product development. When these prototypes are delivered, it's great to go talk to some customers, show them, get feedback, and refine the product. refine the specification, and then refine the product itself. Lastly, at the end of the project, we're going to release it to production, to manufacturing, either your own manufacturing line or an outsourced contract manufacturer who will build these in production volumes. Why am I not advancing? Here we go. So to get started, some things we need to figure out. We being the product, the company that has this idea. That would be you, I guess. So what problem are you trying to solve? A problem is one thing, a solution is another, right? What solutions to these problems are in the market already? Sometimes there's no solution. Sometimes we're thinking about something that maybe automates a process that's done in a laboratory by humans with hand tools and things like that. And in my world at D&K, we do a lot of kind of automated systems that do something by machines and robotics and things like that. So identifying things that are in the market that are maybe similar or a baby step towards the ultimate solution that you have in your head are good to identify. And certainly what is better about your idea is key to grasp. Most important is, what is the target price for this product? What will the market pay for this product? You're not going to know that until you ask a lot of people. Very important, as these products get very complex, the cost and time to develop and deliver them can become enormous. 7-figure budgets are not unusual, at least in my world. Simpler products are of course not, but you need to consider, do you really want to spend a year or 2 or 3 working with your internal team or an outside team to get this to market? It can be daunting. Intellectual property, very key component. So you have this idea. What happens if somebody's already patented that idea? Good to know that someone's got a patent before you spend a large amount of money and time developing it, only to find that out later. So it's always very wise to do a patent search. It's fairly easy to do. There's the website right here. Might be difficult to navigate if it's a really complex product and there's a lot of gray areas, and sometimes you want to hire a patent attorney to help you interpret the work, the patents that are already in place. Very important topic. We're not going to talk too much about it here, but it definitely is worth noting because the patent life in the United States is 20 years. That's a long time. The rest of the world is much different, and I don't have a simple story on that, but that requires some digging into. And a key question is your product simple enough where someone could just buy one and copy it and produce them without your cooperation? So sometimes copy protection schemes need to be incorporated in the product, some kind of an encapsulated module or whatever that maybe is very hard to crack, that might have some secret sauce in your product. Let's talk about marketing and assessing the market. There's a lot of ways to do this. No simple story here, but the basics are, identifying some target customers that might buy this product or might distribute it. It always helps to go to them with, if you don't have an actual working prototype, at least with some sketches, some PowerPoint, a cardboard mock-up or 3D printed mock-up that they can hold and touch and kind of feel and appreciate, sort of how it's used and things like that. You are certainly going to need some kind of a pitch deck that explains on paper why or in video, your product, your company, why your company is going to be successful. You've got this business plan, you've got this team, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of preparation to meeting with target customers and investors. Investors are certainly going to want to see the pitch deck and your business plan. And SCORE can help you with all this stuff. SurveyMonkey is something that I hear about from my clients that get a lot of bang for their buck. It's just for a few dollars they can send surveys out to their target customers, and the catch there is the target customer has to respond, read the survey, actually go through the survey. So there's that caveat that they need to deliver something back from you. Hopefully they know you fairly well and will comply. We talked about channel partners, sales channels of different types that know your market. They are very helpful. Trade shows, of course, trade shows can be expensive, but wow, if you could exhibit at a trade show pre-production, pre-release, before you spend the large chunks to take the product to production, show it at a trade show where there's a lot of customers walking the floor looking at things in this marketplace that you're in. And if you're not exhibiting, at least go walk the show and maybe see some competitors or other solutions that are in that world, that space. Brand licensing, there are companies that will license their brand. You can license the Hewlett Packard brand if you have a printing type product, for a price, and they can be tremendously helpful in your marketing if you're doing a printing product, because they make money off everything that you sell, like a royalty. So it behooves them to help you be successful. And of course, SCORE is there to help with any of this. We talked a little bit about what's existing in the marketplace and how the problem was previously addressed before your invention, and what those solutions cost, what their limitations are, why your idea is better. We're going to take a break in just a sec here, talk about funding resources. Obviously, you can go to a bank and try to get a loan. Refinancing your home, getting a second on your home, that's very common. Friends and family going to your aunts and uncles and cousins and begging them to invest in your company for an equity stake. Okay for smaller projects, hard to do for bigger ones. Crowdfunding is very popular these days. A topic that we're not going to get into too much, but I'm guessing most of you know about that world and the merits and demerits. Traditionally, in my world, companies will go through an angel investor, which typically funds, $100,000 and less, $500,000 and less type endeavors. VCs kind of get involved in the higher dollar world, $500,000 and up, and they will take a piece of your company for sure for their investment. When you approach any of these entities, you should have some kind of R&D, research and development plan and multi-year manufacturing budget. Year one, you think you're going to build 100 units. Okay, there's materials that go into those 100 units, and so there's that cost, and then the labor cost for the contract manufacturer to put together. So you want to kind of come to grips with a year one, year two, year three plan to build and deliver. It might be year two before you're really generating much revenue. So these are things that are part of your overall program plan. And we will pause for a few minutes and maybe take some initial burning questions, and we'll have more time at the end.
There aren't any questions in the chat so far. If it's a question you need to speak, just raise your hand and we can let you speak your question. Oh, here we go. Here are a few. How do we find the answers to your research questions?
How do we find the answers to your research questions? So I think to go into that anymore would probably require a conversation with a SCORE person. Feel free to, we'll talk about the process for working through SCORE maybe at the end, but SCORE is one thing, the internet is another, but I think SCORE is a very good place to start. How do we find the right partner to create the product? It's a very good question. I work for a partner. I know many of the partners. You come talk to me and I can share some of those. I'm not here to sell D&K Engineering. I'm here to help you be successful, and I can help you with some. We're going to talk about this actually in this presentation. There are some ways to circumvent the normal, $100 an hour and up contract engineering firms that might be suitable for you. Provisional patent does not protect you until the patent is granted. So you need a full patent to be granted to really cover you. Provisional is a great start. Hard to say if the patent will actually be granted based on your exact situation. Do you need a patent before showing your product to companies? Ideally, you do want to have that before you show it to other companies, because the patent protects you. If you don't have a patent, you're opening yourself up. Now, a non-disclosure agreement is very common in our world. And if you work with reputable companies, they probably won't try to knock you off, at least in the United States. This is a little rare. In Asia, all bets are off. Proceed with caution if you're talking to Chinese partners. I shouldn't name country names, but you obviously read the news like I do. It's a different world out there, and extreme caution. All right. Shall we move on? Hope there are more questions at the end. So now let's talk about the elements of product development in a little more detail. We talked about this target design specification, which in some worlds refer to it as a PRD, product requirements document, mostly in the medical biotech world. This describes the function of your product, how fast it's supposed to complete some kind of an operation, what the inputs are, the buttons, the outputs, the lights, the feedback, the sounds, the cost target, the manufactured cost, the form factor, etc. I can provide templates for these PRDs. We have some on the SCORE website. But this is fundamental, especially if you're going to go find a partner. They need to have a clear idea of what this is, so that they can properly quote the work. A statement of work is also key, and that defines the objectives of the project, how fast you want to have prototypes, how many prototypes, what level of functionality the different prototypes in different stages need to adhere to, milestones, design reviews, things like that. And the delineation of work. If you're going to do some of the work, maybe you want to do the software and your partner does the hardware, so that has to be very clearly stated in an SOW. Again, I've got templates for the asking. Industrial design is a very key part at the initial phases of the project. Before you get too far with designing stuff, it's good to have a very pleasing physical design, pleasing to the eye, pleasing to the user. Are the buttons spread out far enough? If you have a display, a graphics display, you might have a lot of different menus and screens that need to be navigated through. You might have a very complex product, and so that user interface really needs to be carefully figured out, and so that it's easy to use, so that you don't need a trained person to help you use this product, unless it's some kind of a hospital device or something very special or military that will require extensive training in using it. So the industrial design ID is a key step in the early stages of the product. You may hear the term NRE. That's what typically outsourced partner companies will charge you. It's a non-recurring fee. It's a one-time fee. Recurring cost is the production cost, the ongoing building and delivering the product. That's also referred to as the cost of goods sold, sometimes referred to as a transfer price. So that's the price you pay a contract manufacturer for each unit that you order from them. The overall project budget is good to come to grips with. It's going to depend a lot on what funds you have available, what kind of funds you think you can go raise. Obviously, the NRE of the product is huge, but you have other costs besides the partner NRE. You have your own internal costs, you have your own team, you've got to pay salaries and benefits, maybe, unless you work with contractors, you've got trade shows, you've got travel expenses. So that budget is a key piece. Out of scope for this discussion, but it's just a key component of product development is the budget. One idea is if you are not able to raise the significant sums to take you through production or release, you might start with a proof of concept prototype. We talked about that in the beginning, where you've got maybe something kind of rough looking. You might put a bunch of wires and circuit boards in a suitcase and have an umbilical that comes out to a tiny device that looks like the product. And but there's a Frankenstein behind it in the suitcase. But it's fast. It's a fast solution. Probably very expensive to build one or two of them, but you can get this out a lot quicker than a production design. So the point of the proof of concept prototype is to stimulate investors before you actually have a working alpha unit. We'll talk about what an alpha and a beta is in a second. The product realization plan is a comprehensive program plan that a development partner should be able to provide you. That includes a development schedule and show the resources, the mechanical engineers, the electrical engineers, software engineers, other engineers, quality, blah, 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 supply chain. And over time, it'll show how many full-time people are working in those different disciplines, technicians, assemblers, what have you. And this is something that'd be very helpful to get from a partner development firm when you go to get your big dollars, the funding. The product realization plan will have various levels of skill in the different phases of the project. So early on, you might have very specialized system engineers. These are, super smart folks that have multiple disciplines. They're kind of a combination mechanical, electrical, fluidics person. Depends on your product, but the skill sets in the different project phases will be different as you get towards the end. The development is simpler and the skill sets are less, typically. You may hear the term phase gate program plan, and the basic idea is we're taking a project and we're dividing it into phases over time. Phase one in my world is typically where we're defining the product. And in very complex products, we might be looking at several methods to implement a subsystem, and we may do some experiments. We may breadboard. Breadboarding is a very quick prototyping that looks like Frankenstein-ish. No one cares. No one cares that it looks sexy and sleek. It's just something to show, to determine if it's feasible to implement this kind of a subsystem with some kind of a target cost. So the whole idea here is, can we meet a target product cost-ish? Are we even close? Are we in the right zip code with this approach to a design? Very high level. So typically not much hardware is being implemented in phase one. It's mostly paper design, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of investigation, getting cost quotes on different component solutions out there that might work for the product. And at the end of phase one, we'll do a design review and sign off. Phase one is complete, and then we move to phase two, which in my world, every company is a little different. We start the alpha design. We do the detailed design of the schematics, the software architecture, the mechanical design, and we will complete alpha with a prototype. There may be an alpha 1 and then followed by an alpha 2, which is a refined alpha 2. So when we complete the alpha 1, we'll go out and talk to customers and show and tell, and what do you think of this product? And you'll get lots and lots of feedback. And this is very key to get that feedback before you get too far in your development. But you're going to go out with a something that looks kind of like a production unit, but it will be using rapid prototyping processes to build the fabricated components like the case. You might use 3D printed plastics. That's very common in our world. Sometimes machine parts are used instead of molded parts. We're not going to do anything, probably not going to do much molding here in alpha. Sometimes we will for various reasons, but we're going to use very rapid prototype processes to get something that's might be heavier than a production unit because it's using machined aluminum parts instead of plastic, things like that. It might not run on batteries as long as the production unit. It might have an off-the-shelf, computer board, single board computer instead of a custom board, which we'll do later, just to show the product, looking, acting, tasting like a production unit, but maybe is heavy and expensive and so forth. Once the alpha is completed and we're good, our marketing research says, yeah, we're good in terms of the functionality. Just the cost is kind of expensive because we're using all these rapid prototype processes. Then we go to beta and we cost reduce, and we may do injection molded parts. We might do a custom board or two or more. So we cost reduce the alpha, and we may add functionality along the way. We're certainly enhancing the software and firmware as we get into beta, because things are different with the beta than alpha. At a high level, this can be a deep subject, the beta versus the alpha, but this is, you kind of get the gist here. And then once the beta goes through, the target market is happy, the target cost looks like it's achievable, the functionality is good, then we can think about going to production. And phase 4 is what we call pilot. We will actually set up a production line, and we will set up the instructions for the assemblers. By the way, we want lower cost people building these units than we've had earlier, because we were using highly paid technicians and engineers in the alpha and beta. Pilot, we're going to use actually assembly operators and supervisors and quality people and so forth to build the pilot unit. A pilot unit is a production unit, but it's a limited in terms of if we're going to do maybe 100 units or 50 or some small quantity, not really a production run, but it's essentially a production run. It's all the process is the same as production, but we stop at the end of phase 4 and then gear up for phase 5, which is the turning the crank and cranking these out in full rollout production, which might be continuous production. It often is batchy. We have lots of clients that we build 30 or 50 of something and then pause the production line for a few months. They just don't need a continuous crank being turned because maybe it's a very expensive low volume product. So that's sort of the phases. I probably should have thrown phase 5 in there because that's a key point. That's ultimately where you want to be is manufacturing these products. Let me pause because there are a couple other things I wanted to mention here. If your product is going to need any kind of compliance testing, and most everything does that's got electronics and microprocessors in it, you probably need to know that you're going to pass the FCC limits on emissions, and because these things radiate electrical energy and can interfere with other devices in your home. And so there are guidelines established by the FCC that you can test your product to, and if your product does not comply with the limits for FCC Class A or B, and the different markets for Class A and B that I'm not going to go into, but you can have your internal team or a partner help you tweak the design and add noise filters, or lay out the boards better, or use shielding, things like that. So you definitely want, if you have an electronic product, you definitely want to think about complying with the FCC limits, because if you ship a bunch of units out there and they don't comply and they're going to get returned to you, then that's going to be a disaster for your business. Other markets like medical, you have safety, and non-medical, you have safety to think about. This is where UL testing, or there are UL competitors out there like TUV and Intertek that can do these kinds of safety compliance testing. So you definitely want to make sure this product isn't going to hurt people out in the field, because that's just a lawsuit waiting to happen. So as you go through these phases, I wonder if I'm going to pass these compliance tests. You can do some early testing with the alphas, but really the beta is the one that's going to get you the FCC certification, or the UL safety mark or label. So the beta is really what you ultimately need to take to the compliance labs. Okay, a lot we covered there, and I might have to stay after class if you have a lot of questions on that. So working with partners, assuming you have a product that's maybe beyond your abilities, or beyond, you can always hire people to do this development work. But in many cases with startups, they bring in a partner company, and they outsource part or all of the development. Now, some key points here is you want to make sure that in your terms and conditions in your contract that you own all of the intellectual property that comes out of this development. And this is standard practice, but we've had companies come to us with a product and they had another partner and they didn't have that clearly stated in their contract. And the client was kind of out of luck because the partner they hired kept the intellectual property ownership. They own the patents, not the client. Or the partner didn't release the schematics and the software source code and the mechanical part drawings, wouldn't give them to the client. And man, you're kind of screwed. So you want to make sure that your contract covers the fact that you own all of that. This is standard, but I've seen terrible scenarios here. Also remember, you are the customer, you're the one signing the checks, so you can make the demands as shown here for regular checkpoints, visits, face-to-face. You want to get into your partner's shorts, so to speak, and spend adequate time with them. Okay. Some additional resources. There are lots and lots of networking events, especially where there are universities in your midst. There are, kind of startup accelerators and and industry alliances where they kind of help the business community and help small companies. I don't know many of them here in northern Arizona, but I was in San Diego many years, and there were many of them out there. Connect and Evo Nexus and so forth that had lots of events you could attend and talk to other startups, share notes. Pitch fests are common. I am aware of a pitch fest. I don't have it handy here, but we can certainly make you aware of a pitch fest that I believe is coming up this month or next, where startups pitch their product, their idea, and get feedback from knowledgeable industry people. Free advice, but you're exposing your idea, so that's a caveat there. Incubators, especially affiliated with the universities that actually have office space for startups. And sometimes it's free, and sometimes they want to take a piece of your company. Sometimes they charge you, but these harbor these kind of startups, very early phase. In universities, a great source of free work is to work with the university and have them help you find students that are looking for senior project idea that they will help you for free. They might get some kind of credit for it. Not sure, all the terms are different, but typically they don't hold any kind of ownership, but it helps the student, graduate because they did this fantastic project that you're working with them on. So it's a little bit rare in my world, but I've seen it. For freelance services like web design and so forth, I'm not supposed to really advocate companies, but this is one that I've heard that my clients have used. I don't know them. So full disclosure, it's just one that I know is out there for things listed here. SurveyMonkey, great low cost way to do market research. And of course, ScoreMentor is is also a standard offering here at Score. Again, I'm not supposed to advocate specific companies or what have you, but this is a person that I personally know that published this book. It's on Amazon. It's $10 or $15. Hard to pass it up. A wealth of knowledge. If especially if you're doing something reasonably complex, good little book. Again, I'm not endorsing it. You're on your own, but there are a number of these authors out there and books that are worlds of advice. So that is the presentation. We have about 10 minutes left for questions and answers.
You have one from Nancy in your chat there.
Got it. So Nancy, so Crystal, do we want to actually have a conversation with Nancy here? Or do I just comment and that's it? I'm not sure.
You can answer her question, and
Okay.
if she feels like she needs more, then she can raise her hand or just continue in the chat.
So what apparently we have here is we've got a current solution, storage solution, and you want to refine this. So I need to know a little bit more about the product to really comment on this, but I would think it would be interesting to know who developed the last solution, and that it's ideally you can leverage that working knowledge already with the current version. Does it have electronics in it? Blah blah blah. I don't know enough here to comment.
I believe she unmuted me. This is Nancy.
Hi there. You're very faint.
I am.
Okay.
Oh, I'm faint. Okay. I thought you said we're famous trying
I-
that. So,
I can hardly hear you, but I'm a little better. I just turned my volume up.
Okay. Well, my Mac, it should be okay. All right, so it's a simple storage thing. There's no mechanics to it. There's no electronics to it. It's a storage item that I have been using for, I have type 1 diabetes and I've been using it for that. It is fabulous. Holds everything I need. With some refinement, I can see where other people dealing with chronic illnesses such as mine with supplies, and all in one place, so your counter doesn't look like you're a pharmacy. So
Is it your product or is it someone else's product?
it's a current product that's out there. And
Okay.
I don't imagine anybody's going to jump on this because you might think it's big, but the drawers that hold K-cups, the coffee cups.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so those drawers. So I've taken two of those, stacked them up, and they're the perfect size for my insulin pens, my meter, all the paraphernalia that goes with it, and that it's been really great because my counter looks really nice, and I don't have all these medical items that I get into 2, 3, 4 times a day. I just open the drawer.
Got it. So of course you could go to the manufacturer of that current solution and see if they would be interested in doing a modification for you. But there's a couple of problems. One, they may say, hey, we don't need you. We're going to go ahead and do this on our own, unless you patented this concept. B, the volume for them might be not interesting. If I'm just speculating, if the volume potential for this is maybe 1,000 units a year, they're building these K-cup things in million a month, right? So they're in a huge high volume world that maybe your product is not really interesting because the volume is tiny. Sorry, I'm not being critical.
You're right.
So maybe it makes sense to partner with a company and develop your own version based on that. Again, we want to probably see what's patented out there, what kind of patent landscape you need to navigate through so that you don't step on their patents. But this is a totally different application than coffee, so maybe you're okay.
It's a different market. You'd be marketing through, smaller, like diabetic centers, things like that.
Yeah, but this is a typical thing to maybe, get into the SCORE world and find a mentor with some relevant experience in this world, like myself, to help guide you through that.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
been very informative.
Thanks. Whoops, we jumped. Focus on. Hi, Febin. Febin contacted me yesterday. Hi, glad you're here. Should I focus on development and patent before registering my name? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you and I are talking Friday. We can certainly talk about this, but I need to know a little bit more why you're hesitating maybe on registering your name. I think you're probably okay, unless there's something in your name that's going to reveal what you're doing, then that's kind of a secret. So I tentatively will say you can register your business name now. All right. And from Kyla. So this is exactly why we have these partner companies that have the expertise to design and manufacture products, and then some of these ecosystem to help you with industry knowledge. So you're not alone here. SCORE can certainly help you get started at no cost. I would try to arrange a conversation with someone from SCORE. You're certainly allowed to suggest me, but I may get overloaded after this afternoon. Who knows? You're welcome, Fevin. Is that how I pronounce it, Febin? Okay, so. Sorry, I didn't really
And
help Kyla. I didn't really help Kyla. It requires a conversation.
I think you covered it too on one of your slides about the different partners and the universities, and you have to seek out some of those professionals that do have that knowledge.
Find the brain
But it-
trust.
Yep. Any other questions for Tim? I believe his next slide is probably his contact information, but I also wanted to let you guys know that Tim is not the only mentor in SCORE that has product development background. Obviously, not everyone is from Northern Arizona or Utah. SCORE is nationwide. So if Tim can't help you, there are tons of other mentors that do have the product development background experience. So was there any closing comments you had, Tim?
Nothing other than thank you, and I hope we meet again.
Yes.
I
And-
didn't put my contact information. Should I have done that?
I can send it out, or
Okay.
you could just request a SCORE mentor. Tim is on the SCORE website, so you can search his name and he will pop up as a SCORE mentor, and you can directly request him there, or check out the other profiles if you are looking for a specific background of product development that maybe someone else nationally might have. So they
Sure.
mentor match you. So
Yeah, I am not the only one in this world. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
and as always, there is a survey that will be sent out after the webinar as well. Feel free to fill that out if you're looking for a more in-depth webinar on product development, a little bit more into the weeds. We can definitely look about creating something like that. As always, the more feedback you provide us, then we know what you guys are needing and what to offer. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon, and look in your email for the recording and slides sometime today or tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Have a great day. Thanks, Crystal.
Yeah, of course.